Hello everybody, I'm Mo of Many Colors, and I am so glad that you have decided to join me today for story time. Today we will be reading a book that has been donated to us by the Book Fairy Pantry Project. They collect and distribute new and gently used children's books to local food pantries. If you'd like to find out how you can help them do that, all of their information is right on Facebook under the Book Fairy Pantry Project. We are going to be reading a serendipity book tonight called Tickles Tale, written by Stephen Cosgrove, illustrated by Robin James. Dedicated to the memory of cats and kittens, especially Jake and Charles Dickens, for they all brought magic to me. All, in the land of serendipity, there was very little magic beyond your imagination. Even so, high in the crags and crannies of the Mashu-Pishu near the crystal lake of mirrors stood a small stone castle where odd magical things happened. Here, lightning flashed and cracked on crystal clear days, and rainbows arched above the walls of the castle keep. For this was the castle of the wistful Wizard Wink, master of illusion and magic. The Wizard Wink was a kind and gentle wizard who actually read more than he whizzed his wizardry. He would sit for hours bathed in the golden light that streamed like ribbons through windows opened wide, reading books about this and that. Around him on dusty shelves and rickety tables were powders and potions stored in vials and vases. There were purple plume powder, dream dust, feathered flames, and other such puffery much needed and used in the wizardry trade. Although he knew other wizards, Wink did not have many friends who slept over or even dropped by for tea, for they were just as reclusive as he. Who he had instead, and who was still a friend indeed, was a bright white cat called Tickle. He was called Tickle because he loved to tickle his own pink nose with his fluffy, fluffy tail as he ran around and around trying to touch one to the other. Tickle would tickle and turn and tickle until the tickles turned to sniggles and the sniggles into giggles and the giggles became gales of laughter. Tickle had full run of the castle, and he would prowl about as cats are wont to do. Sometimes he would look for scurrying mice that never seemed to be found. Mostly he would spend his days on a shelf curled in a warm ray of sunshine. From his lofty perch he would watch with a lazy eye as the Wizard Wink read from his book of magic and whisked and whipped his potent potions. Now the wizard didn't have many rules, and the rules he had were simple and brief. Sip your milk, don't slurp, and never, never touch the magic. Content with the fact that Tickle understood the rules, the wizard set out one day for the village and left the kitten all alone. "Take care, my fuzzy little friend," he said, as he put on his wizard's cap and coat, "for I won't be long." With that, he was out the castle door, as Tickle's tail whipped sassily about. The one thing about cats that makes them almost magical and slightly mysterious is their curiosity. Of this trait, Tickle had tons. "Hurrum," he thought as he stretched and arched his back. "I'm very curious if there is any milk in the dish." With that, he pussy-footed across the wizard's table and jumped to the floor below. He wandered and wandered about the castle looking for his saucer, but look though he might, no dainty dish could be found. "Hurrum," purred Tickle as he rubbed his tickly tail around a ladder's rail. Curiously, when there is no milk, there are always mice. Beyond milk, mice are nice, very nice indeed. Off he ran to look about for a mighty mouse or many mice that might be skittering about. Tickle looked here, Tickle looked there, but nowhere could he find any mice, or for that matter, even one single mouse. He looked in the gnawed hole in the castle wall. He looked in the untripped trap in the dusty hall. He looked and looked, but he looked though he might, Tickle found nothing. Nothing at all. It was at this time that curiosity, tainted with a bit of hunger, got the best of Tickle, the wizard's cat. He happened to find himself on a rickety table looking about for something to eat. With his tail idly twitching, he sat there in a pool of light in the wizard's book of magic delight. Tickle looked around, and then he looked down. It was then that he saw the most curious words indeed. If hungry you are, if starvation you fear, say these words and food will appear. Hocus pocus, lavender locust, brighten my eyes, bring dinner into focus. Below these words were an ominous warning. Don't use this magic more than 2, though hungry indeed or curious are you. Curiosity will always get the cat, and Tickle was no exception. Quickly he purred the words out loud while thinking of gallons and gallons of milk. At first nothing happened, but then the skies turned purple, crickled and cracked as lightning flashed and thunder crashed. When all became light again, Tickle looked about for his magic meal, but there was nothing there, no saucer, no milk. The floor was bare. Beyond his sight, through the window bright, the crystal lake of mirrors turned milky white, but the cat just didn't see. "Rum," he purred, as cats often do. "Maybe I should try again." With his eyes scrunched tight, he meowed the words until they echoed all through the castle. This time as he chanted, he thought and thought of the largest mouse he might. Once again the skies flashed with lightning and crashed with thunderous roars, but still and all, nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. Nothing happened, that is, save for just outside of Tickle's sight. A mouse the size of a house rushed from the castle and galloped into the meadow beyond. Now the warning was still on the page. Don't use this magic more than 2, though hungry indeed or curious are you. But we all know cats rarely read something more than once, and Tickle's curiosity was tainted. Without thinking of the consequences, he chanted the magical words once again. Hocus pocus, lavender locust, brighten my eyes, bring dinner into focus. But this time, the third time, there was no thunder, no lightning. This time, the third time, there was only a puff of purple dust and a special spark that settled scarily about the cat. Tickle didn't have time to worry or wonder at this odd event, for out the window he spied the wizard Wink wandering up the path and back to the castle keep. Tickle looked about to make sure that all was in order. Then he leapt to the shelf where he always slept. There he plopped himself down and pretended to be asleep. Just in time, it would seem, as the wizard waltzed in the door carrying a polished pine pitcher. Nothing more. The wizard shook his head curiously as he scratched his long white beard. He said, all of this is a bit odd. The lake of mirrors has turned into milk and cream, and I was passed on the road by a mouse the size of a house. Whose magic could this be? The wizard Wink looked and looked, but nothing seemed to be amiss. The vials and vases were where they should be, and the magical book was open just as he had left it. "Harumph," grumbled he as he shook his head. "All this must be an old man's imagination." With one eye cracked open and the other asleep, Tickle watched and waited, but nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. The wizard busily bustled about as he whistled a tune and poured some milk from the pitcher into a dainty dish. Once filled, he put it on the floor. "There, my little kitten," he said as he stroked the cat. "I knew you must be hungry, so I slipped into the village while you slept and bought you a pitcher of milk." Without further ado, the wizard went back to work, and Tickle laughed at his dinner, delighted with his deception. Ah, yes, he was very relieved that he didn't get caught. Curiosity cannot be brought. What they say is very true. When wrong, you'll always get caught, not by him or them, but you. Although this curious cat weaved and deceived, doing what was very wrong. Tickle never did get caught, but he now has a tickle tail 3 feet long. Yes, Tickle's tail is much too long. He can no longer play, and everywhere that Tickle goes, his tail gets in his way. The end. So I guess it's not true. Curiosity doesn't always kill the cat, but curiosity can sometimes be a very dangerous thing. So if you are curious about something, it is always best to ask an adult. So now it's the end of our story, and I'm so glad that you joined me today. Depending on wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a lovely day or sweet dreams. Good night.